Hey YouTube, Longboards Post 1975. So by now I'm pretty sure most of you are aware of what I'm doing because, you know, I talk about it all the time. I'm pretty sure if you take all my videos you can play a drinking game across the number of times I say why I collect Japanese Megadrive games now, which is to get the collection I had on the console I had when I was a kid. But I've had, you know, quite a few subs since I first started doing this. And I got a couple of PMs recently. I say recently, I got a couple of PMs about a month ago from a couple of guys who were kind of new to my channel, and they said they get why I collect Japanese Megadrive games now. But why did I own a Japanese Megadrive back in the day? And I thought, I've kind of touched on this, but I don't think I've given the full story. So yeah, I'm going to talk about why I had a Japanese Megadrive back in the day. So we're talking 1988 here. I must have been 12, I guess. That's a guess. I can't be bothered to do the maths. And I still have my Sega Master System. Sega Master System was the first console I owned that was, you know, completely and utterly mine. It came off the back of me having a ZX Spectrum, which was the family machine. So Sega Master System to me was a massive step over the Spectrum, and just, you know, one of my fondest consoles of all time. One of my fondest memories of a period in my life is definitely the Sega Master System. I loved it. So many great games on there. You know, R-Type, Wonder Boy 3, Double Dragon, to name but a few. Now, at the time, I got a magazine. Now, anyone from my generation will know what magazine I'm talking about. And we're talking pre-Me Machines magazine here. We're talking CVG. Picture. CVG was kind of a new thing at the time. I mean, you had CVG and you had Edge magazine, and they were both magazines that didn't concentrate on one particular format. They were a complete mixed bag. Because up to this point, I had a Spectrum, and I got Sinclair User, Crash magazine, and your Sinclair. And then when I had my Master System, I primarily collected a magazine called the official Sega Master System magazine. What a crap title. It was official, but they did tell you the game was shit, you know, so it wasn't that official. And obviously I read in CVG there were some reviews for the Master System, the NES and machines like that at the time. But late, sort of 88, 87, sort of around that period was a really exciting time in video games. That was when the fourth generation of consoles kicked in Japan. Now I remember they had this tiny section in a CVG, because it was primarily a computer magazine, you know, Atari ST, Amiga, Commodore Amstrad, Spectrum. But they had this tiny little section called Me Machines that would eventually, you know, become the magazine Me Machines, that would eventually split into two magazines, you know, one for Sega, one for Nintendo. But yeah, it's a tiny little section called Me Machines, and I pretty much bought that magazine for that section. I loved it. And in this section they reviewed, like I said, NES, Master System, but then they started doing the PC Engine, and then they started doing Sega Mega Drive, and I was like, well, what is this Sega Mega Drive? You know, there was no hype for it for me in my world at that time. So I was like, this is 16-bit Sega. I mean, I thought my Master System was amazing, and it's like 16-bit Sega. Oh, I mean, I know the PC Engine's fantastic, but this is going to be so much better than PC Engine because it's Sega and it's 16-bit. And that was it. I had to have one. I just had to have one. I mean, I remember this is pre-really internet, isn't it? It was just all dribs and drabs of information from magazines. You know, such a different time than it is now. And I just remember finding out that it was going to be officially launched in this country by Virgin, but you know, this is like, you know, mid to late 1988 when I, you know, became aware of the Japanese Megadrive, because obviously it was released at the tail end of '88 in Japan. Obviously it came out in North America in 1989, and the UK had to wait to 1990. My brain was just like, I ain't waiting 18 months for this. There has to be a way around it. There has to be a way around it. Now, importing things now, you know, thanks to the internet, places like eBay, is a piece of piss. But back then it was a little bit more difficult, in the sense that it wasn't difficult. There were routes available, but you all had to go down the same route. You know, it was kind of limited. So prices were high. So I do remember that in the back end of CVG you had a little black and white section of ads, and these are what we affectionately refer to as grey importers. That sounds dodgy, doesn't it? I always thought the term grey import wasn't fair in the sense that it kind of makes it sound like a little bit hooky, you know, a little bit backhand and buying shit off the back of a lorry, or hooky fags from Europe or something. But basically, it was a group of companies that just imported these machines to the UK, and then, you know, modified them to run on our TV system. When I say modified them, basically, because obviously the Japanese machines were NTSC, and so what they would do is they would hardwire a SCART into it, and basically you could buy them in two forms, and the prices, you know, reflected this. The prices were different, did reflect on whether you wanted a PAL or a SCART. Now it's funny because now we would say PAL or NTSC, but I do remember in the black and white adverts it was always, do you want a PAL machine, which you would just get, you know, an RF lead in itself directly hardwired into the console. So I don't know how that would work with 60 Hertz down a RF lead. I don't know. It's been a while since looking at these magazines. Yeah, so I initially opted for a SCART, which did involve me having to go on another little extra mission, because I did know at the time that to get the best effect or appreciation from the machine you were buying, you had to buy a SCART one, or 60 Hertz. Now, all the TVs in the house, I had a little portable TV, little colour portable TV in my bedroom, and it wasn't, you know, SCART compatible or Euro connector. For those of you in North America, I'm just going to stop the video and I'm going to find a SCART lead so you know what they look like, just for reference. This is my custom SCART lead for my Genesis. I can't find the one for my Megadrive. The only difference obviously is the connectors are smaller. I think my Megadrive one's plugged in the other room, because I do like to play my Megadrive on a CRT telly, because on a digital TV it just looks like monkey balls. So for those of you who've never seen one, sorry, I hope I'm not patronising anyone who lives outside the United Kingdom, but you know, just thought I'd explain this. Maybe you already know. But yeah, it's an adapter with 20 pins. So obviously immediately over an RF lead, it can carry a lot more information. Now, I can't remember how many of the pins carried audio and how many of the pins carried visual information, but basically it just gave you the best picture, you know, possibly available. Now, on my Mega Drive I bought back in the day, it was hardwired into the console. Basically, they wired it in, drilled a hole in the outer case, you know, and threaded it through. Now, I remember looking in these black and white ads, and I think I eventually ended up paying sort of around about £200 and getting a Japanese Mega Drive in very early 1989. In fact, we're talking pre-Genesis in North America, because I do remember, because I'm, you know, massive comic book whore, the magazines for a specific toy chain or department store, it might even be Walmart or something like that, I don't know, where it was released and it came in a bundle with not Golden Axe, Ordered Beast, and next to it was a picture, and we're talking, you know, newsprint quality, double page in a comic book, was a picture of the NES, because it was when the Super Mario 3 was just released, and they were side by side, and they were like, you know, these packages, these bundles, and I remember thinking, why is it called the Genesis? Apparently it's because something else is painted in North America called the Mega Drive. Anyway, I'm drifting off topic. Now, 200 quid in 1989 is a lot of money. I don't know what the equivalent would be now. It probably would be the equivalent of buying, you know, sort of an Xbox 360 or a PlayStation 3 at launch. Now, obviously, as a 12-year-old, excuse me, still got a cold, I couldn't afford that sort of money. So I do remember selling my Master System and all my games and still getting nothing for it, because we were on the verge of all the new consoles coming out. No one really cared for them, did they? So their market value dropped, and I was still short. Now, I used to work for my old man in his motor garage on a Saturday morning, just like, you know, sort of 9 till midday, because Saturday was half opening for sort of garages and things like that. And I just kind of used to sweep up and help him with MOTs and stuff like that. And I used to get sort of, I think it was a tenner, you know, hardly big money. I think reasonable money at the day for a 12-year-old. And so I was still coming up way short, and I thought, I need a Japanese Mega Drive. So I started working in a pub on a Friday night, waiting on tables. Pub's still just down the road, mind. And then on a Sunday afternoon, I washed up at lunchtime, washed up. How far we've come, you know. Yeah, I used to wash up on a Sunday lunchtime by hand for, like, you know, the Sunday dinner serving, which was big. Washing up. So anyone who does it now, fair play, man. It's a horrible job. Just the endless sea of plates coming in with burnt on gravy and remnants of dead animal. Not a nice job, but yeah. So I think I managed to get the money together in about well, let's see, I saw it at the end of sort of, I don't know, November, December-ish, '88, and I got one sort of, like I said, very early, I don't know, February. I think about 3 months, which I think is actually quite impressive. So then it came to the day when I ordered it, and you know what it was like when you're a kid, and I actually remember having all the money in a VHS cassette case. Just, I don't know why I used that as a money box, but I did. The one-arm boxer it was, actually. Yeah, and I remember it came to the day when I had to order it, and you just sat there just staring at the black and white ad. Your parents were just thinking, like, what is wrong with him? You know, just pick one and send the money already. But you know, like, you know that once you made your mind up, you couldn't go back, so it was a big deal, big deal. So I sat there, and obviously I knew I was getting a Scout one, and I went, right, 200 quid, and I want Batman with it, which I have now as well. And you know, the one little mini case. And then I sent it off, and I do remember the wait was absolutely excruciating. One of the horrible, longest waits for anything in my time. And it came. I remember when it came. I remember when this big fat parcel arrived at my house, and I remember sitting in the room. I've never forgotten this. Sitting in the front room, looking through the window when I saw the postman walking down the gate towards the house really slowly with this big beast of a box. I remember thinking, that's it. That's my boy. Holy shit, good times, good times. Which immediately went sour the minute I opened the box, because I was just like, where's Batman? I picked Batman, you know. I'd read the reviews, and apparently it was absolutely amazing, and I was just like, well, it is absolutely amazing, best music on the Mega Drive. Where's my Batman? Instead, I got a copy of Rastan Saga 2, which in itself is, you know, it's an alright game, but it wasn't Batman. It's funny, because every time I tell this story to anyone, I immediately forget that that's on the list of games I have to get to complete the collection I had when I was a kid, and I always forget it. Rastan Saga 2. I've got to get on that. But then the minute I popped it in, that was it. I didn't care anymore that it wasn't Batman. I was just like, holy shit, look at the graphics. There's the phrase. They're arcade perfect. Even though I'd never actually played Rastan Saga 2 in the arcades. And the music was absolutely amazing. And that was it. I was just like a pig in shit. Game on. Everything was just right in the world. I do remember writing a complaint letter to the people saying, where's my Batman? And they said, oh, we'll ship you out a copy, and they never did. So if you're out there, it's going to fall on deaf ears, but if you're out there, you still owe me a copy of Batman. Yeah, and that's how I ended up with my Japanese Mega Drive. The funny thing is, it kind of had a ripple effect getting a Japanese Mega Drive, because then I found out, you know, a couple of years later, that the Super Famicom was coming out. So I did the same thing with the Super Famicom. I think I paid about 250 quid for that in late 91, early 92, I can't remember. And then, even after that, when long since sold both those machines, I ended up buying a Japanese PlayStation 1, because I simply couldn't wait the 18 months till it came out in the UK. And in 1994, maybe late 93, that cost me £450. Seriously. Half a grand. But there you go. That's the reason I had a Japanese Mega Drive when I was a kid. Not the reason why I'm collecting games for it now, but because some people ask me, who may be new to the channel, that's the reason I had a Japanese Mega Drive when I was a kid. I'll see you later. My fucking pants are falling down.